Imagine a decision made in a fraction of a second, without conscious deliberation, analysis, or logical processing. A choice so rapid, it bypasses the frontal cortex entirely.
This is not luck, nor is it reckless abandon. It is instinct. We are taught that success demands meticulous planning, rigorous data evaluation, and slow, deliberate thought. Yet across high-stakes fields, from military operations and emergency medicine to high-frequency trading and entrepreneurial leaps, the critical, life-altering choice often defies logic, relying solely on an inner conviction that does not think, yet so rarely fails. Our exploration begins with the fundamental paradox of human cognition, the duality of decision-making systems that operate in constant, often competitive, concert. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman famously categorized our processing into two modes, System 1 and System 2. System 2 is the conscious, calculating self. It requires energy, time, and focus to execute complex calculations, analyze spreadsheets, or weigh the ethical nuances of a difficult situation.
It is reliable but painfully slow when speed is the non-negotiable requirement.
System 1, conversely, is instinct. It is fast, automatic, associative, and effortless. It's the engine that recognizes faces, dodges traffic, or instantly assesses danger. It does not calculate. It recognizes. It doesn't process data in the linear sense. It instantaneously matches the current environmental signature against a lifetime and an ancestry of accumulated patterns.
The critical power of instinct lies in its ability to synthesize a vast, complex data set, including emotional cues, peripheral visual information, and ambient sound, into a single, unified signal, the gut feeling.
Consider the trained firefighters standing outside a burning building. They don't run spreadsheets on BTU output or ventilation rates. Instead, based on the smell of the smoke, the subtle sounds, and the color of the flame, a System 1 alarm bell rings, screaming, "Flashover imminent," or conversely, "Safe to enter." This assessment is not the product of conscious thought. It is the instantaneous output of thousands of hours of experience, hardwired into intuitive response patterns.
The speed is the genius. In a truly emergent situation, the delay required by System 2 analysis is not prudent caution, it is fatal paralysis.
Instinct is the cognitive bypass that ensures action precedes potential disaster. But the power of instinct is not merely speed, it is holistic synthesis. Where conscious thought struggles to handle more than a few variables simultaneously, instinct processes the entire sensory environment at once. It feels messy, irrational, and untraceable because the underlying computation is subterranean, hidden from conscious review. Yet when instinct is calibrated by experience, it achieves an accuracy that System 2 logic often misses, trapped as it is by predefined boundaries and cognitive biases. The very definition of professionalism, in many fields, is the shortening of the gap between stimulus and correct response. This mastery is the elevation of instinct, transforming raw impulse into refined intuition. The true genius is knowing when to trust the logic of the gut and when to pause for the scrutiny of the mind. This subtle interplay determines not just success, but survival itself. The non-failure of instinct is rooted deeply in our evolutionary history, a history far longer and more unforgiving than the brief modern era of deliberate thought. Our ancestors did not survive by debating the probabilities of a rustle in the grass. They survived by triggering an immediate flight response, dedicating resources to instantaneous action rather than academic assessment. Instinct is therefore fundamentally calibrated for survival. This leads us to the second keynote, evolutionary calibration. Instinct is not a random guess, it is deeply encoded wisdom. The fundamental emotional response of fear is perhaps the clearest example of instinct's unwavering mandate.
Fear bypasses all higher thought processes, hijacking the body to prioritize immediate energy allocation to fight, flight, or freeze.
A sudden drop, an unexpected loud noise, the sight of a snake, these triggers demand speed, not analysis.
The failure rate is low because the evolutionary cost of a false positive, jumping away from a harmless stick, is minimal compared to the cost of a false negative, failing to react to a venomous threat.
This bias towards immediate protective reaction is hardwired into our limbic system, operating with the highest possible priority interrupt. Furthermore, instinct incorporates learned, specialized patterns that become automated over time, a process called chunking or skill acquisition. Take the example of a seasoned pilot. When a sudden mechanical failure occurs, they do not consult the 500-page manual. Their hands instinctively move to the correct switches, their eyes track the critical gauges, and their body executes the precise procedure honed over thousands of flight hours. This is trained instinct. System 2 thought, having repeated an action to perfection, delegates the task to the speed and efficiency of System 1. The subconscious mind, having absorbed the detailed logic, now executes the solution without requiring the bandwidth of conscious thought. This automation is what allows experts to perform under extreme pressure, where high cognitive load would otherwise lead to failure. The less they have to think about the fundamentals, the more capacity they retain for the genuinely novel problems inherent in the crisis. Evolutionary calibration also explains the remarkable accuracy of our social instinct.
We often judge trustworthiness in a new encounter within milliseconds. This is System 1, filtering out potential threats or reliable allies based on subtle cues.
While prone to certain biases, this rapid assessment is crucial for navigating complex human dynamics, where social calculus is too slow. In essence, the reliability of instinct is simply the reliability of ancestral and practiced data. It is not mystical. It is simply calculation performed too fast and with too many variables for us to consciously monitor. The paradox, it does not think, yet it rarely fails, resolves itself when we define thinking as conscious, linear System 2 processing. Instinct is the output of a profoundly efficient, non-linear background intelligence. It is the sum total of every lesson learned, every danger avoided, and every successful adaptation across millennia. To disregard it entirely is to throw away the most robust decision-making software our species possesses. Understanding this foundational reliance allows us to move deeper into the mechanism itself, differentiating impulse from true intuitive insight. The third keynote delves into how this subconscious engine processes information, the data processing engine. We must dispel the myth that instinct is merely emotion or irrational feeling. True instinct, particularly in the realm of complex decision-making, is subconscious pattern recognition. Instead, their System 1 immediately recognizes the shape of the position, the arrangement of pieces that matches thousands of prior games and strategic configurations. The potential moves that would be catastrophic are automatically discarded, allowing conscious thought to focus only on the few plausible candidates. This rapid narrowing of the possibility space is the core benefit of refined intuition. In business, an experienced venture capitalist can often size up a pitch deck in a founder within minutes, feeling a click or a dissonance that dictates their investment strategy. This gut feeling is the subconscious aggregating subtle indicators: vocal tone, eye contact consistency, market narrative alignment, and the overall professional posture. It is an internal scorecard, weighted by years of observing success and failure across hundreds of similar ventures. The difference between reliable instinct and reckless impulse is the depth and quality of the data underpinning it. If you have little experience in a domain, your instinct is just guesswork masked by confidence. It will fail frequently. But if you have invested 10,000 hours of focused effort, your instinct is the most highly optimized decision algorithm available. Neuroscience supports this, showing that expertise effectively changes the brain's physical structure, automating complex routines. The frontal lobe, which handles slow calculation, becomes less involved, transferring control to areas designed for efficient, automatic execution.
This transfer mechanism is why athletes describe being in the flow state, where conscious thought dissolves and movement becomes pure, flawless reaction.
The critical element of the flow state is the suppression of System 2, the internal critic, the self-doubter, the overanalyzer.
When the mind is forced to think about the action, performance degrades dramatically. The instinctual, practiced response is always superior under pressure.
We often trust instinct in life or death scenarios, but hesitate to apply it to critical business or personal decisions.
This hesitation stems from the modern fetishization of measurable, traceable data, ignoring the immense value of deeply internalized, qualitative pattern matching.
We are trained to justify our decisions with external metrics, even when our internal compass points clearly in the opposite direction. Instinct provides the initial direction, efficiently filtering out the noise. System 2 should be reserved for validating the direction, not generating it. This synergy, where instinct proposes and logic refines, is the hallmark of true high-level executive function. But what happens when we rely too heavily on the logical mind? The strength of System 2, its capacity for rigorous analysis, is also its greatest weakness in high-complexity or high-stress environments. The human capacity for conscious thought is limited. We can only hold roughly 4 pieces of distinct information in working memory at any given time. When a problem exceeds this cognitive threshold, our analytical machinery grinds to a halt. This is analysis paralysis. Instinct, operating in parallel, subterranean processes, avoids this traffic jam entirely. It doesn't require conscious resources because the heavy lifting was performed during years of dedicated learning, not in the immediate moment of crisis. Furthermore, prolonged conscious thinking is highly susceptible to cognitive biases and emotional interference. Confirmation bias leads us to seek out data that validates our already formed opinions, warping the entire analytical process. Loss aversion causes us to make irrationally safe decisions, terrified of incurring loss, even if the potential for gain is immense.
These psychological traps are often mitigated by true, experienced instinct, which focuses on outcome pattern matching, rather than justifying the steps.
The greatest danger of relying solely on logic is that we often fail to distinguish between complicated problems and complex problems. A complicated problem, like fixing a jet engine, requires System 2, following detailed, linear instructions. A complex problem, like navigating a political crisis or launching a radically new product, has no rulebook. Here, the logical mind often fails, attempting to apply linear rules to a non-linear system. The System 1 pattern matching engine thrives in complexity, sensing emergent patterns and subtle shifts that conscious thought cannot track. This is often the defining factor in successful leadership, the ability to intuitively grasp the situation before the data fully confirms it. The intuitive leader acts decisively on limited information, trusting the subconscious processing of years of context.
The over-analytical leader delays action, waiting for certainty that will never arrive in a volatile environment, leading to missed opportunities and eventual stagnation.
The fundamental lesson is that thinking is not always the highest form of intelligence. Knowing when not to think is the true mark of mastery. In situations demanding decisive, integrated action, the speed of instinct trumps the precision of logic every time. This is not an argument against learning. It is an argument for learning so thoroughly that the knowledge transcends conscious recall. The data confirms that experts spend less time thinking and more time reacting correctly. So, if instinct is so reliable, how do we cultivate and refine it to maximize its utility in our modern lives? This brings us to our 5th and final keynote, cultivating intuitive intelligence. The key is understanding that you cannot simply decide to trust your instinct. You must earn the right for your instinct to be trustworthy. The cultivation process begins with deep immersion.
Instinct is simply System 1 operating on a massive, high-quality database.
You must flood your subconscious mind with the relevant data of your domain through both study and repetitive practice. This constant input allows the pattern recognition software to find correlations and anomalies far faster than conscious review ever could. The second step is deliberate feedback loop analysis. After an intuitive decision, consciously review the outcome, regardless of success or failure.
What did my gut tell me? Did it align with the outcome? If not, why? Where did my internal pattern matching go wrong?
This conscious scrutiny corrects the subconscious algorithms, ensuring your System 1 is continuously updating and becoming more calibrated.
Crucially, to hear instinct, you must create silence. The noise of constant digital stimulation, distraction, and multitasking drowns out the faint signal of intuition.
Intuition requires cognitive space to bubble up from the subconscious mind to the conscious layer. Practices like focused work blocks, walking in nature, or meditation are not luxuries. They are essential maintenance for the intuitive machine. Finally, practice thin slicing. This term, coined by Malcolm Gladwell, refers to the ability to make accurate judgments based on minimal experience. Deliberately force yourself to make non-critical, rapid decisions based only on the first 3 pieces of information you receive. This trains the brain to trust its initial assessments and improves the speed of System 1 processing.
Instinct does not think because it has already done the thinking. It has processed the data across evolutionary timescales and experiential repetitions.
Its non-failure is the proof of its profound, quiet intelligence. So, the next time you face a choice that overwhelms the analytical mind, pause, step back from the spreadsheets, and listen. If your instinct is rooted in genuine expertise, trust that immediate resonant signal. It is the fastest path to the truth. The wisdom of the subconscious is waiting, requiring only your silence and your trust.
Disclaimer: this discussion explores cognitive theories for entertainment and educational purposes. It is not financial, medical, or legal advice. Always consult professionals for critical decisions.